for a day in the life of a security professional. We're thrilled to have you join us for this exclusive webinar brought to you by Virtual Guardian and Torq. In today's session, we're going to take you inside the world of a modern SOC operations. Specifically, we're going to follow a day in the life of a security professional and explore how HyperSOC and Torq's platform are transforming the daily work of engineers and analysts. Our goal is to give you real-world insights into how automation and AI are streamlining investigations, accelerating incident response, and maybe most importantly, reducing alert fatigue at scale. Before we dive in, just a few quick notes. The first is this webinar is being recorded and you'll receive a copy later. Also, there is a question and answer option. So under the meeting controls, there's a spot for you to put questions into the chat. I'll either stop and ask those questions to the team during the presentation, or we'll save time at the end as well. So with that said, our agenda is as follows. One, today you're going to learn real-world examples of how automated workflows, how to automate workflows into action. Also, how Virtual Guardian uses Torq to supercharge our SOC operations. And last but not least, insights into Torq's Agentic-AI, its impact on security operation, and how it drives efficiency across organizations. With that, let's get started. I'm excited to introduce our speakers today. First is Dylan Jensen. He is a solution engineer manager at Torq, who will walk us through how automation is reshaping daily SOC workflows. And Tommy, I'm gonna get your name done with the most US English accent as possible. So Tommy Kovar, who is our Security Operations Center Director here at Virtual Guardian. And he's gonna share with us how our SOC team uses Torq to streamline operations and boost effectiveness. With that said, I'm gonna hand the presentation off to Dylan. So Dylan, take it away.
Awesome, thanks Bill / Scott on Scott's machine.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so diving in, right? And my thing keeps killing my screen share here. But kind of diving in here, right? We're going to, not kill you guys with slides, right? We're going to see a lot of the products, but I have a couple slides that I wanted to showcase. The first one, right, was our logo slide, but then the second one, right, just kind of shows some of the customers and partners that we have out there. Virtual Guardian being one of our big ones, where they not only use Torq in-house, they also leverage us and help you guys out from like a resale perspective. So kind of just reading the quote here. Torq is the first solution we've seen that effectively mitigates alert fatigue, false positives, staff burnout, and attrition. And this was actually given to us by Chris Cassell, who is a vice president of security and trust products, right? And I'll explain how we're able to do a lot of that, as we get more into the presentation here. Now, a couple things. So this is the state of security operations from 2024, for example. Torq did not invent the security automation solution. It's kind of been around for about a decade now. The problem with these kind of solutions was really around, they were very code dependent. You had to be kind of like a developer to get any good usable outcomes out of that. And so you could see how the market really didn't adopt that very well. So when Torq came to market, right, we wanted to do all the things that a previous generation of SOAR solution promised, all the outcomes, all the reduction in like alert fatigue, tech sprawl, talent shortages, all these things that it was trying to tackle. But we wanted to make it as easy as possible so we could get widespread adoption with the solution kind of like that, right? Now, kind of looking at this, this is the security operations automation journey through time. So before we had kind of like the legacy automation, this was, we call it like obsolete technology. If you guys go to our web page, we actually say SOAR is dead, right? We kind of feel strongly about that here. And then we start moving to the right here, where we're seeing hyper automation, case management. Right? These are things that we've implemented in the product. And then eventually we're getting into artificial intelligence, which I'll show you from an AI SOC perspective. And you can see that's really close to the future of SecOps. We're like right on the cusp of what the future should look like and what it will look like, and we're kind of leading the charge from that perspective. On here, auto remediation, 95% of tier 1 security cases. This is not this is not FUD or anything like that. I actually have customers today that are, their goal first year was 90 to 95%. Goal second year was close to 99 to 100% of their tier 1 cases, all being handled by our AI-powered hyperautomation, our AI-driven SOC analyst, and contextual case management, and then kind of augmenting some of those tasks that humans are doing today. That last slide, I promise, and then we'll dive into what Torq looks like. When I'm breaking Torq down into, what components does it have, I really break it down into 2 categories. The first one is what we call the hyper automation. So as alerts are coming in, we're, typical security processes to enrich the IOCs, extract the IOCs. It's going to be maybe reach out to users, verify some of this stuff. It's all done very manually by a lot of organizations today. So that's where automation comes in to play, where an alert comes in, we have all of this kind of pre-built out in a workflow. It goes through all of this logic, and then ultimately opens a case, which is where HyperSOC comes into play, which is our second component here. So within Torq, and really the goal of any security incident is to have that alert or that case be created, right? Now, the problem with that is it becomes an alert, it becomes noise in an organization. It has to be worked by a SOC analyst, right? So you can kind of see the trend here. From a HyperSOC perspective, we still create that case, but now we have the AI SOC analyst kind of work through a run book doing the same exact things that a human would do. Whether it be, hey, let's analyze all the enrichment sources here. Let's check out the reputation. Let's do phishing analysis, like linguistic characteristic analysis on this phishing email, for example. Let's use AI to do that. It's going to work through that run book just like a human would, and then ultimately auto close that ticket out if it deems it's a false positive, or even escalate that up to a human as well, right? And so that's where you're going to see the HyperSOC component. I'm going to stop sharing, and then I'm going to reshare my screen to the Torq platform here. All right. So you guys should see my screen. Are you guys seeing the integrations page right here?
We are indeed.
Perfect. All right, so I mentioned the hyperautomation component. Now, part of building out any automation tools, you have to have integrations with literally everything, and we're trying to get everything under the sun, but we are almost there. Hold on, this thing is, it's not a demo if your browser's not fighting back at you. Like I said, we're trying to get everything under the sun. We have quite a few integrations out of the box, over 450, close to 500 counting today. So as I'm scrolling through here, you're going to see things pop out that are, technologies that you're using today, whether it be, M365, CrowdStrike, SentinelOne, whatever it is. We integrate with those, and we integrate with those really easy. So to integrate with any of those, you would, go to that specified integration, hit add instance, fill out these details that you would receive from Microsoft, and now you're ready to go. You're ready to take all the actions that we have within the platform around M365. Now, a common theme here at Torq is increased velocity. We want to increase the velocity in which it takes for our customers to get to the outcomes that they want. And so part of that is, hey, maybe Torq, you guys don't have an integration for a technology that we really like to use within SecOps or within security. How do you guys cover that integration? And it really comes down to, we use AI, right? We're really big on AI here at Torq. So you can take an API doc, the link for that doc, you can paste it into our AI generator, pull out any of the endpoints that you'd want to integrate or have the platform build the integration on, and it would automatically build that out for you. Now, this is a complete 180 of how it used to be back in automation solutions, where if you needed to build out a net new integration, you as the customer would have to either know how to do Python or something along that nature to actually get that integration built out, or you're kind of at the mercy and the SLA of the vendor that the platform that you're on, and that could be 2-3 weeks on a quick day. Really, you're looking at like maybe a quarter for that integration to actually get done. So within Torq, we want to give you guys all the power to do whatever you need in the platform, and we want you guys to be able to do it really fast. So this would take 5 seconds, right? Now, kind of working into the hyper automation a little bit deeper here, I have an impossible travel event, which we're going to dig into a lot in depth, especially when we get into the HyperSOC. But really the structure of this automation is, if we actually go look here, I'm receiving data from, let's say, my SIM, for example. This includes, a login user, this includes a date, time, and this includes a login IP. And so the structure of this flow as we're working through this, logically is we're rolling through that data is coming in from the SIM. We're checking to see, have we ever seen this user log in before? Have we ever seen this user log in from this IP address? We're even doing like data enrichment. So I'm reaching out to an external service and I'm just, enriching the information from that IP address. Where is this IP address located? What's the latitude and longitude, region name, ISP that hosts this IP address? So enriching a lot of this information. Now, the big thing with Torq is we classify ourselves as a low-code, no-code solution, meaning you don't need to know how to code to get in the platform and do something. Now, if you do know how to code, you can leverage something like Python, for example, to do really cool things like I'm doing right here, where I have just a really simple Python script to detect that impossible travel. Now, again, you don't need to know how to code within Torq to get even that outcome because we're using AI in other areas where I can go on here and I could say generate Python code with AI. I'm going to say give me the current time in epoch. So this is just a simple script that I want to create that gets the current time in epoch. I would hit generate here, and now we have the Python code related to that, right? Very similar to what I did with this impossible travel script. Now, if impossible travel is detected, I'm going to work through here. I'm going to get the previous IP address from this user. I'm also going to enrich that because that's valuable when we start looking at this from an incident perspective. And then ultimately, I'm going to create a case around this, right? Now, as we're pivoting into the case management side of Torq, and this is what we call our HyperSOC. We have our case management, and this is our case management overview. So this gives us different queues or different states of cases. So I have, a tier 1 in progress, tier 2 kind of state. All this is all customizable. So, don't think that you're just going to get these default states. I'm actually going to click on this new one. We have a new one in the queue here. So a couple things that I see right out of the gate. This is an AI generated case summary. Now, the AI used all of the context information around this case itself to generate this AI generated case summary. How many times can I say AI in a presentation? We'll see. But if we're looking at this, right, this gives us the what, when, impact, key indicators, specifically around, this incident. Now, I'll take you guys back, about 10 years ago when I was working and running in a SOC, when I was, kind of building out cases, I was really only throwing in information that I found pertinent to the analyst or something that they would find relevant, just because I didn't want to inundate them with like a lot of information. That slows down the response time. Now with Torq, I've kind of taken a different approach, right? Where I'm actually throwing in as much information into a case as possible, not because an analyst is going to have to go through that, because now it becomes additional information as we're kind of rolling these things up to the AI, especially in the form of like the case summary, for example. Now this by itself, great, but we're going to get into what we actually call HyperSOC. So the HyperSOC is, and I just moved over to the tab here to what we call our run book. Now, the run book, and I tell any organization, the run book is your process and procedures around how do you want your analysts to work this case, from a triage investigation component all the way to a response component. Just put that down on paper. A lot of organizations, including Virtual Guardian, have run books related to incidents today. So this is not something that is new to SecOps. It's really just taking those run books, putting those into the platform. And, traditionally, these would be SOPs for a human to follow. But what this actually is within Torq and what it can be, and I'm going to assign this case to Socrates, is this becomes an SOP for the AI SOC analyst to follow. Now, this does a couple things. One, it ensures that it's, following a process and it's not just kind of out shooting from the hip on what it should do from a security incident perspective. But two, this allows us to get really good visibility into what exactly the AI did, why it came up with the reasoning and determination of why it should have enriched this IP address versus this IP address. And we're seeing all of this in the conversation from Socrates. Now, if I'm looking at this, you know, when I assigned this case to Socrates, it immediately started analyzing the run book. It gave me a step-by-step execution plan. This is really good for visibility. And then it starts to execute any of the steps related to this. Now, I always get the question right about this moment of, hey, Dylan, how does Socrates know how to like get server logs, or how does it know to do a Google IP address search, here? And it's really pretty simple. So since we have the hyper automation layer within Torq, what Socrates is doing is it's leveraging that hyper automation layer to go out and do a task, right? And so this is a pre-built workflow that you guys would, build out or have built out with AI. We have AI building within the platform as well. You can have it do something like go out and get server logs, and then all you do is you tag these workflows with Socrates in the platform, and that tells Socrates, hey, this is a workflow you can actually execute. So if you're looking at Torq from a high level, we have alerts coming in from different data sources through workflows where we're creating a case, but then we also have another subset of workflows that Socrates is using to accomplish tasks, right? And we can see some of the server logs that Socrates got out of here. Now, quick analysis on these server logs. I can see, and I've been doing this long enough, I can see that, hey, we're seeing a server log or a login from this particular user. It was an unsuccessful login. The date times, this shows kind of quick succession. So, my kind of determination here would be a potential brute force attempt with, eventually them getting successful on it. So maybe they got the right password or whatever it is, but we're just seeing like a lot of password spraying type of activity here. Now, working back from the case, we can see what Socrates did from a get server logs perspective. It went out, got those server logs, ingested that into what we call the AI's context window. So it went into its brain, it went into its memory on how it got that information. And it just keeps working its way through this runbook, doing a Google search on the IP address, resetting a user's password. Now, this is a component that I always like to highlight. I have this in here to show, hey, maybe Socrates can do what I call stop the bleeding type of actions, where maybe we need to do a quick action temporarily before we get through the investigation because it's a VIP user or whatever it is. It can absolutely do that. Or it can do full responses. Now, a big thing here at Torq is you can also implement like human in the loop, for example. So if you're working, if Socrates is working this case and it gets up to the step of resetting a user's password, you can actually have it send a Slack message, a Teams message to your team where they have to see a quick summary of that, and they have to actually click a button. Yes, I want you to reset this user's password. No, I don't want you to reset this user's password. And it really puts like guardrails around what the AI can and cannot do, especially from a response component. But you can more than certainly always use Socrates to do a lot of what I call like the data collection phase, where it's collecting data, looking at data all around this, maybe even low risk actions like sending an email out to a user. This is something that I see customers doing every day. But then I also have another subset of customers where they're like, hey, actually, we've been using Socrates for over a year now. We trust it. We trust what it can do. Let it go out and do the responses, right? So kind of working its way through the runbook here as we're going through. I wanted Socrates to add a note about key findings from the server logs. So if we go look here, we're actually going to see key findings from the server logs just summarized for us. So since it was able to go out and get the server logs, it's able to summarize those for us. And so we're seeing, the server log indicates repeated unsuccessful login attempts from this user on this IP address in Beijing, for example. This indicates a potential unauthorized access attempt to this user's account, right? Kind of aligns with what we had going on there. Other things, enrich the IP address from the server logs, extract any of the observables. So these are big components, especially because when we start doing threat hunting with the platform, which we can do, having all of these IOCs kind of boiled up from the cases with reputations attached to them, this is going to be key. And so what we can see here is I went to the observable section. We now have 4 observables. One was the email address for the user that was affected by this incident. Another one is the IP address related to those unsuccessful and eventually a successful login attempts. And so what Socrates did here is based on the context of all the data that it had, it knew, hey, this should be marked as malicious. And here's why it should be marked as malicious as well. So the why is the big component here. It's telling us, where we're seeing repeated unsuccessful login attempts from this IP address, suggesting a brute force attack or compromised credentials. So it kind of gave us all of this information on here. It even knew to go one step deeper where each email address, there's always a domain attached to it. Let's extract the domain. Let's also extract, an additional username that we're seeing within the context as well. So it was able to do all of that. And it just marked those as other and unknown from a reputation standpoint. Now, one of my favorite things to have Socrates do is find any cases related to this one in particular and link those cases related to this one. So when we start talking alert correlation, this is going to be what's going to get us there, and we're able to do it in 2 sentences within Torq, right? And so Socrates went out, searched for all the cases related to this one, and then linked all of those cases to this. So now maybe we're not dealing with like a singular incident within the organization. Maybe we're dealing with multiple incidences from the same IP address in China. They're just, kind of password spraying across all of our accounts. These should realistically be multiple incidents kind of rolled up into one alert, which we can do from a linked case perspective. And it doesn't even have to be around impossible travel. You can see on here, I have some Okta login information. So we're seeing multiple incident types all being rolled up into this singular alert. And like I said, we can get there in 2 sentences, which is some of the power of AI, right? We had vendors 7 years ago spending 9 months of developmental time trying to build out this exact same feature, and we're able to get it pretty quickly natively within Torq into 2 simple sentences. Now, other things that I like Socrates to do would be like adjust the severity of this case, right? I always say that severity is always set statically by whatever's doing the detection. So in this event, if my SIM was doing the detection, it's probably going to have that information statically set. Or if you're receiving alerts from CrowdStrike, Sentinel-1, that data is going to be set statically from those vendors. Now, the big thing is once Socrates rolls through, doing Google searches on IP addresses, getting server logs, enriching IOCs, emailing users and stuff like that, it's able to better make a determination of where the severity really should be based on everything that was done and based on data. And so now it's going to adjust that severity, whether it be up or down. And you can even start to fill out, just like we do with AI today, as you're talking to ChatGPT, you can do prompt engineering and maybe, say, hey, if you're seeing, 2 or 3 observables marked as malicious, then I need you to put this at a critical severity. If we're not seeing any IOCs, marked as malicious, then you can pop this down to low, for example, right? So you can always add more information to these run books. It's just an AI at the end of the day, so prompt engineering. Now, another thing that I like to do is have an after actions report generated on every case that Socrates works. Now, what this actually gives me is a nice little after actions report, and Socrates is running a workflow to do this after actions report and then feeding all that data into itself to create this. But essentially, I'm getting like incident overview. I'm getting a summary of the incident. I'm also getting incident timeline as well, right? Root cause analysis. These are all really good things. Impact assessment within the organization. Actions taken, even any missed actions. A lot of incidents, there's going to be a human working those. Maybe I want Socrates to say, hey, what did the human miss? So we can go back and do additional training and things like that around my human analyst. And then recommendations for future incidents. That's another component that I've added here as well. Now, that's kind of the end of Socrates working through the runbook, and this is what I call autopilot. But just like anything else that has AI today, you can also leverage Socrates in like a co-pilot fashion. So I have a chat interface to communicate and work with Socrates. We also have predefined, actions based on some of the previous cases and some of the previous interactions with Socrates. Hey, what does a human typically do in this stage? It'll give some of those predefined ones, but I can go in here and I could say, can you help me build a response plan to prevent this from happening? So I can go do this in ChatGPT today. Great. It's going to come out with some generic, some generic response plan. I can give it additional context. It's going to take a little bit of time. One of the good things about Socrates and its ability to build these response plans is every time I communicate back and forth with Socrates, it's actually aware of all the information that was done in the case and that's in the case. It's aware of all the actions that were taken by the analyst and whatnot. And so it's better able to build us that response plan very fast. And so if I'm looking at this, it's saying, here's your response plan. You need to strengthen authentication controls like implementing MFA and enforce strong policies. Okay, yep, I probably need to do that. Monitor and detect suspicious activities, educate and train employees, so conduct training. So if we need to see like where the incident started from, like how were they able to get all these accounts, stuff like that. Maybe it's coming in through email, so we need to do some security training, security awareness training. Invest in security infrastructure, so utilize IP reputation services like in your firewall and things like that. So if I was building out a response plan, which I have in the past, these are some of the things that I would implement around kind of these measures to prevent this from ever happening. Now with Socrates, you can also leverage it, like I said, from a co-pilot fashion. You can also have it take actions as well. So if I need to say, can you Slack this user from this case and ask if they were traveling? So a really simple thing that I can have it do. Maybe I don't have that baked out in the run book because I don't do that every single time, but I want Socrates in this particular incident to actually send a Slack message to that user. I'm actually going to, here in a second, drag my Slack onto the screen. So you guys should see my Slack. It's just a simple message. Hello, Dylan. We have identified an impossible travel alert associated with your account. Could you please confirm if you were traveling recently? Thank you. Are you traveling? Yes or no? I'm here. I can go, oh, you know what? I'm actually not traveling. Let me hit no here. What that does is that gets fed immediately back into Socrates, so it's aware of the answer. I have contacted Dylan. They have responded no, they are not traveling, indicating that Dylan was not traveling. We should proceed with appropriate mitigation steps as this may suggest unauthorized access, right? And now we can do things like, let's get user Okta session logs or enrich the malicious IP address. So we're gonna, click this button to go out and retrieve those Okta session logs for that user, and then pull those back in so we can keep doing an investigation and analysis of this, right? So kind of really speeds up the investigation process, especially within any case from an organization, but it also helps up level our team. So if I'm a tier one analyst, right, I can go in here, I can utilize Socrates to give me recommendations. I can have it take actions, and it kind of becomes like my little AI analyst buddy that helps me work through cases as well if I need to.
Hey, Dylan, this is Bill.
Yeah.
We had a question come in, and I obviously going through some of the answer already, but when you compare the HyperSOC capabilities and Socrates and everything that's built into Torq, how does that compare to traditional source? I'm going to change the question just a little bit.
Yeah, great question. So a couple things, right? From an hyper automation perspective, according to like traditional source, it really goes down to the builder's perspective. You have to put yourself in the builder's shoes to see this. But traditional platforms, they were very complicated to build. It took a long time to get things built out. Very, very cumbersome when it came to like integrating with net new things, right? So a lot of organizations, even the ones that were able to adopt a SOAR, they weren't able to build very fast. So let's say you have a playbook, is what they call that in a traditional SOAR, which we call it a workflow. You have one that's handling like EDR alerts, and you need to do one that does phishing. You're looking at maybe like a 3-week to a 4-week lead time before you actually start getting those phishing alerts over to your analyst, because it has to go through a playbook that you have to build out, right? Now within Torq, you're looking at hours, right? Even seconds realistically, because we have components around like generate with AI, where we can take any use case that you can put down on paper, hit generate, and it'll actually build that workflow out for you. So this is going to be really great compared to like a traditional SOAR. Now, from an AI SOC analyst or a Socrates perspective, how does that compare? It's apples and oranges, right? These traditional traditional SOAR platforms did not have AI SOC analyst tools. They're kind of working their way in that direction, but they still haven't fully got there. Where Torq, we've kind of been in this game for about a year and a half, 2 years from the AI SOC analyst perspective. So we have a lot of lessons learned and things like that. And the great thing is you guys don't have to incur any AI cost. You're just getting a Socrates, a SOC analyst, and now it's kind of rolling through a lot of your cases from a tier one perspective.
Awesome.
But great question. Great question.
Thanks, Dylan. The other question that came up, and I think you've already defined it by talking about it quite a bit, but the question came up is, what is Socrates? And obviously, we've been talking about your Agentic-AI capabilities, but I'll let you answer that question as well.
Yeah. So Socrates, if I was to frame up what Socrates is, I would say, hey, it's just an AI analyst that's built into every single case that gets generated within Torq, right? Now that's kind of me doing it at a high level. Really what it is it can be a tier 1 analyst. It can be a team of 15 tier analysts, right? And so that's some of the big components that really make Socrates attractive, especially when we start talking scale within any organization. Let's say I am an organization, I got like 5 tier 1 analysts that are working, morning to night, 12-hour shifts. And it's Christmas time and we just get flooded with events. Well, can those 5 people scale out very fast? No, they cannot. They either have to increase what they're doing, so handle more alerts faster, and that's going to increase your risk of false positives and things like that. In that instance, this is where Socrates comes into play. It is a multi-threaded AI analyst. So, let's say you get flooded with alerts, same scenario on Christmas, you're receiving 1,000, 2,000 of these alerts. Socrates is going to work all 1,000, 2,000 of those alerts. You don't need to scale out your team. Socrates is going to scale itself out, and then only boil the things up to the surface that it deems necessary, right? So what is Socrates? AI SOC analyst, if I could put it in high level terms.
Perfect. Appreciate it. We had another question that came in before we move on here to either what you're going to present next or possibly to Tommy. We'll see where we go. But the question is, can you see how the incidents are linked to the case? It'd be helpful to see if it was linked by IP type, user, etc.
Yes. So you can absolutely see how the cases are linked, and that actually comes from the observable section, right? So since we're able to have Socrates pull out all the observables from the cases themselves, that's actually what it's using to link those cases, is the observables, and so if I click on any of these observables, I can actually then go see everywhere that observable has lived. So this gives us a really good determination of, which case this was seen at and why it should be linked to where it is at. Now, this even goes a step forward. If you guys start thinking from a tip perspective, we also have, tip-like functionality within Torq as well, where we have an observables overview. So not just observables within the case, but observables outside of the case, where I can go in here and I could say, all right, I want to see everything that had a malicious reputation, and I want to filter it by, the last time that thing was seen. Okay, we have this IP address. Let me click on that here, and now I can see all of the cases that's related. And so this becomes like just really easy threat hunting, that organizations can do. But that's how you can see why that case linkage was there.
Very nice. We did have one more question that popped in, which is, using AI in automation processes in some organizations is relatively new. So what advice would you give security leaders if they're considering AI-driven automation solutions in their organization?
Yeah, I mean, a couple things that I see right now. I'll kind of talk about this from 2 perspectives. One's around adopting AI. When we were coming to market with AI SOC stuff, a year and a half, 2 years ago, what we saw as the industry, a lot of it was, crossing the T's and dotting the I's. It was really held in the hands of lawyers and whatnot, right? Now, fast forward, we see a lot of organizations that are able to adopt AI, and some of the things that they've implemented to allow for that adoption is like AI architectural boards and things like that, where really every technology that they're going to go acquire and has AI has to go through this architectural board where they go through, everything about that AI. Where is the data hosted? Are models being trained on that data, or is the data being retained? All of that stuff. We've went through those boards. We've been scrutinized by some of the biggest names in the game, and we've came out on top, right? Just because we have really good, strong AI policies around how we're doing a lot of that. You guys can even go pop in Google and say Torq AI policy, and we have a lot of that stuff publicly disclosed as well. But that comes around the adoption. Now, I also employ organizations. If you're not there to adopt and you're like, I don't see a need for it, why should we do that? Especially when we're talking automation, we have a lot of automation AI as well. So that's building workflows, that's being in a workflow and adding modifications. You can have AI do all of that. It really starts to help out with your team. From a builder's perspective, it allows them to build faster, build more. It really just is a helper. So when you're looking at this and you're like, should we adopt AI? The answer should probably be yes, you should. And here's some of the reasons why you should, right? So those are kind of two components that I see around the AI stuff.
Awesome, very good. So I stopped you through your flow. If there's more to show, keep on going. Otherwise, let me know.
No, I was structured this out just in time, so I think we can hand it over to Tommy now.
Awesome. Yeah, that was fantastic. Really appreciate the overview of the automated workflows and how they look in practice. And with that said, Tommy from Virtual Guardian, our fearless SOC leader, please take it away and show us how Torq has supercharged our SOC operations.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Dylan. Yes, so like introduced, my name is Tommy Correvar. I am the SOC director at Virtual Guardian, and today I'll be talking a little bit about, basically the history, how we came to use Torq for our SOC, and the challenges we were facing before and after. So, but first of all, little intro on a SOC. So, Security Operations Center, where security operations happen. When you ask some companies, they have SOCs internally. Some companies, they offer SOC as a service like we do. When you scratch a little bit below the surface, there's several levels of maturity that we see. Some of these SOCs are just managed EDR company. Some of these are just handling critical alerts. Sometimes it's just 9 to 5. Then there's a subset. They do have a SIEM. And then if you go further, some of them have a SOAR, and some of them use hyper-automation. Some don't. So that's a little bit where the market is. We've had a SIEM for a long time. We did face some challenges. The challenges are obviously not new to our organization. Some of these challenges are often due to alert fatigue. This is a big one. All the tasks that our analysts have to do manually and that we cannot automate using the traditional tools. We take pride in the team that we built, but when you start looking at how exactly they spend their time, if they spend their time copy pasting URLs and IPs to check the reputation, or if they spend their time going through case history to see exactly what happened within a particular environment, then we're not leveraging those individuals to the fullest of their capacities. So we actually implemented, this is the third SOAR we implemented, but when we did a POC, we were not sure. Then we integrated one that we used for a year, and some of the challenges that we faced were regarding the lead time that Dylan mentioned. So how long between you have an idea of something you want to automate and how long before you can automate it for real? And this was weeks. This was weeks, sometimes, you know, a month and a half between an idea and something that we can put in place. So that's one of the challenges that we used to run into. And the other or the underlying problem is the complexity of such platforms. You need to know how to code. You need to, you know, fix some codes here and there along your playbooks, which is, you know, if you have security analysts, they're not developers, you know. And then do you need to go and hire 3 developers to do the job of to automate in 1 year the work of one L1 analyst? It makes no sense. So for us, the return on investment was not there, simply because I had basically an L3 and an L2 full time on automating, and maybe we were saving like half an L1 in terms of time invested and time saved. So that was not good. So we started looking, and we looked at Torq, and yeah, basically we did a POC, and everything that they said they were going to do, they did. So it is no code, low code. It integrates with pretty much anything. So we did the POC, and now we have this deployed today in our SOC. So how do we use it today? The first benefits, Dylan touched on it, is the hyper automation of our workflows. So everything that needs to be checked can be automatically checked. Everything that is routinely checked can be automatically checked. And when my analysts open the case, it's not a SIEM alert with a lot of random, not random, but very technical specific data that they need to look and figure out what's going on. It starts with the AI summary. The AI summary I really like because it tells a story. And when the analyst reads that story, they're already in the case. They already know what's going on. So then they have to go and go snipe on a few key indicators, and they can make a decision much faster. So that's one of the places that we are, one of the use cases. We talked about integrations with tools, and many of my colleagues, they often ask us, what do you automate with such and such tools? And the answer is yes. Is there an API? Yes, we can integrate. We have a customer, they use an internal tool. They're in the educational industry, and basically they have an internal web page where, because every alert comes with an employee code, and so we have to resolve that code into a function. You know, are they faculty member? Are they a student? Are they this? Are they that? We're able to integrate into that in a couple of hours, you know, building a new integration. So that's also giving us a lot of flexibility, and this is allowing us to be much more tool agnostic. We don't have to use a set of tools. We can help our customers leverage and get the most out of their tools. So that's something that is really nice. The time to put an automation in place, Dylan touched on it. It could be hours. It literally could be hours. Usually what I tell my customers, I tell them 1 week. So we have time to design it, we have time to put it in place, we have time to test it, we have time to, but 1 week turnaround is incredible. And having this flexibility, it really allows us to get tons of ideas. So we implemented internally for our team a chatbot, basically. It's Torq that's behind there, and some of the actions that we have to perform on our systems to run some health checks, some very high-level commands. Those are often requiring elevated privileges. So it's only my L3s that can do it. But what we did is we implemented this through Torq, actually. So now if my L1s want to get the status, the health check status on some components, they can just ask on Teams in the channel that we have, and Torq runs the commands and come up with the answer. So that frees up some time also with internal processes, and the sky is really the limits for us. Like I said before, I'm really proud of the team that we built, and now being able to use the team on more strategically in places where they really matter. It's obviously great for me selfishly, but it's great for them as well, because they're able to, you know, use their capabilities and learn more and touch on more things that they wouldn't have been able to do before, because they were stuck on, you know, copy pasting and doing routine tasks. So basically, that's pretty much it. I think I touched on everything. I didn't touch on AI too much, but we are using AI, like I said, either to build the workflows, so using this as a copilot, or just, you know, pasting a command in the builder, and the AI just decides what's the appropriate command to use. We use it also, you know, with the Socrates. We use it very strategically for now, because obviously we want to be careful and use it in the right places. But yeah, so this tool, I really love it. It allows us, you know, to be agnostic, to be faster, to be more accurate, and, you know, between the time that something is detected in the customer's environment and the time that we're able to fix it or block it, it has been reduced tremendously. So it's a pride to be able to perform in such a manner, and that's, you know, thanks to this automation tool.
Awesome, Tommy. Thank you so much. If you have any additional questions, now would be a great time to send them in. But with that said, Tommy, I got a question for you. When you looked at the past SOAR solutions you've implemented in the past, and you were to compare just the overall time, not only to implement, but also the time saved, how does Torq differ between those other platforms from implementation time to get playbooks up and running and actually completed, as well as the actual usability of the platform?
So the math we did 9 months in were that for the 9 months that we had implemented the previous SOAR solution, we had pretty much an L3 and an L2 pretty much full time on this to be able to code those automations. But then you have to factor in that an automation that we put in maybe comes out in 6 weeks, you know. So for 6 weeks they're working on it, and all this time, you know, it's not saved. So then, okay, after you're saving sometimes for the analysts, but, you know, 9 months in, we were only able to say, you know, half of one L1 analyst of time were saved during a month. So that's not great. That's really not great. Today, so we do auto close. We have a target for this year of 80% auto close. The ones that we don't auto close, it usually was 20-25 minutes. If this was an incident, then we need to take action. Now it's down to around 5 minutes. So that's the time saved. That's pretty good.
I got another question for you, Tommy. If you were to think about traditional SOC, where you have a very heavy SIM with all the logs flowing to that SIM, and then having to either have logs parsed or redirected, managed in some form, and you compare that to what's possible using Torq, using individual tools, their native log repositories, and correlating data, could you see a tool like Torq changing how people think of a SOC?
Yes. Yes. So Torq, but at the end of the day, Torq, for me, what I see is it's like the nitro you put in your engine. You know, you go faster, but you have to have an engine still. So you have to have an engine, but you don't necessarily have to have a SIEM. You can automate and correlate and take action across whatever tools you're using. So the conversations now with customers is not that, oh, you need a SIEM automatically. It's okay, first of all, what tools do you have? How can we make those tools shine the most? First of all, some customers, they will require to have a SIEM, they will require to have, you know, all the bells and whistles. Some customers, they just say, well, I have my DR, I have my you know, all my Microsoft suites, I have this, I have that. You know, can you just see what's going on there and take action right away? And in that case, yes. So that really changes the game and make us be more agnostic and also help our customers make the most out of the tools that they have, even if they don't have a SIEM or anything very heavy.
Excellent. This is a bit of a self-serving question, Tommy, but if someone wanted just to have managed Torq and have you build those automations and workflows, is that something Virtual Guardian can provide?
Yes. Yes, so we love the tool. Everybody's on the tool. I have even people are not in my department that are asking for access because they want to automate things in their department. But yes, so we love that tool. We're spending a ton of time in that tool. Obviously, we offer it as a managed solution, but we can also help any customer navigate it, help them build automations. Yeah, we love it, and we love to share, you know, our knowledge and help others be empowered by it.
Perfect. Well, there are no more questions in the queue, so I want to really thank both Dylan and Tommy for your presentations today. It was a great recap on HyperSOC and how Torq is transforming the day-to-day life of a security professional through automation, AI, and smarter workflows. I want to thank everyone on behalf of Virtual Guardian and Torq for joining us. You will receive a recording as well as possibly some additional resources by email. So I'm not quite sure if we've got some additional documentation we're going to send, but we'll make sure that at minimum you get a link to the recording. And we really appreciate your time today. Thank you for attending, and we hope that you can supercharge your SOC operations with Torq and Virtual Guardian. Take care, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.